Beautiful MacArthur Park is what I'm told we're looking at, which is right not far from our beautiful downtown Los Angeles studios here on Futbol Americas, which is not far from Las Vegas, where a game just wrapped up between Jamaica and Ecuador. Ecuador 3-1 winners to get themselves back into contention in Group B. Ale, we were unimpressed with Ecuador in their opener against Venezuela. How'd they do today?
Well, I suppose if you watch the first half, you kind of go, well, this is better. This is better from Ecuador. Their possession had a lot more purpose. They seemed to have more ideas in the attack, and their pass seemed to be more involved in the attack. One of the questions was, are they going to miss Ener Valencia? And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. The truth of the matter is that they scored 2 goals. One of them quite fortunate on the deflection, because obviously Piero Hincapié is trying to hit a ball across. There's a deflection, and now the goalkeeper scrambling, and no chance for him to get onto it. So from a no angle, you get across, that ends up in a goal. And then a handball, chicken wing handball, that I did think was a handball, and they go to VAR, referee sees it. He was trying to argue the case to the VAR official that maybe it wasn't, but that chicken wing was out there. So it's a handball penalty, 2-0, and you thought that Ecuador was in full control. So if you see the final result and you didn't actually watch the game, you go 3-1 Ecuador. Well, and Ecuador was very dominant, very much in control. And that wasn't the case in the second half. Man, were they hanging on against Jamaica. And so to answer your question, I suppose better in the first half, but as much as they were better in the first half, second half, went back to being unimpressed by Ecuador and expecting a whole lot more. I was impressed by Jamaica's second half, and then that left me asking questions. Where is that in the first half? Where is that recognition that Ecuador doesn't like or doesn't want your speed, or that change of pace, or that if you get in their face and you force Moises Caicedo to make decisions, he's prone to turning the ball over, because we have seen that with Chelsea. When they did that, when they harassed Ecuador, all of a sudden Jamaica had a hold on the game that they never had in the first half. It really was a game in which first half was all Ecuador, second half was all Jamaica. They would argue, Jamaica would, that potentially they should have gotten a penalty kick. They didn't. And in the end, Ecuador 3-1, big 3 points.
What do you think? Jamaica unlucky not to get something more out of this game?
I think so. Minute 72, that call changes the game. Mm-hmm. It's 2-1, Ecuador's favor, but the momentum has swung. Alan Franco, did it hit the head first? Did it hit the hand first? Quite frankly, not enough evidence to overturn it, but that's a pivotal moment in this game, and one that if it goes Jamaica's way, we're singing a different tone. That's a different game. But certainly, first half Ecuador, second half, a good reaction by Jamaica, and then Ecuador win in waves. This is a team that, wow, even being down a man so early versus Venezuela, I came away impressed with the resolve, impressed with the fight, not impressed with how they got scored on, but 10 men versus the Venezuela team in that sun. I thought the reaction was good. They did well. 11-11, it's going to be different. But man, does this team suffer on set pieces? I mean, every single set piece they had, they allowed Jamaica some way, some form to be dangerous and come back into this game. And it wasn't until they killed it off late that you really felt, okay, now it's over. But we're talking about very late. There were moments in this game where Jamaica, with the insertion of Damari Gray in the second half, really changed, really put Ecuador on the back foot and gave them some problems. And for a second there, just a second, you were thinking, this can get away from Ecuador.
And if we go back to that play in which Alan Franco touches the ball with his hand and then his face, in my estimation anyways, the referee, when he's trying to make up his mind, as he is watching the monitor, I go back to the first decision he made in this game in VAR, and that first penalty kick that was given to Ecuador, and a handball that I thought was a handball because of the arm position of the Jamaican player. Again, I'll go back. It's chicken wing action. That arm was out there, and it's an unnatural position. It's making yourself bigger. It was a header that was going towards goal, and so therefore I thought that was a correct decision. But even when he was looking at the monitor in that first decision, it's almost as if, because he hadn't called it initially, it's almost as if he was trying to argue with the VAR official, like, hey, like, this is not what I'm seeing. Yeah. He's trying to make his own case, trying to convince himself. And I felt that had some bearing, and again, this may be speculation on my part, but that had some bearing in the second decision. Because he once again looked at it again, sort of was discussing with the VAR official, almost as if to say, no, this one I got right. And the truth of the matter is, again, my opinion, Alan Franco's arm is out here for no reason. One would argue maybe he's trying to protect his face, and he shouldn't be doing that. When you're in the wall, for example, and there is a free kick, and you do this trying to protect your face, and it hits your arm, that's a penalty kick. Well, Alan Franco is here. It's almost like he was in the court of law, right? Promising to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God. That's what he was doing with the arm here, and it hit him in the arm. I thought it was a penalty. I thought it was a handball. Referee fought against it, and in the end, he said, no, nothing to see here. Jamaica would be very disappointed.
Yeah. Jamaica loses for a second straight game here. In a couple hours, they could be eliminated from the Copa America, depending on results. Did we see at least a little improvement in the second game compared to the first where they lost to Mexico 1-0?
Yeah, I believe so. And it's unfortunate because I look at this team on paper and what they could have been.
Mm-hmm.
You could have had Damari Gray, you could have Bobby Cordova-Reed, you could have Mikel Antonio, Michael Hector, Pino. You could have had Leon Bailey here. And think about Leon Bailey not being here, having a complete Jamaican team to really see what they can do. And I know I've said this so many times, it's the biggest enigma in all of CONCACAF because you see on paper all these great players that should be doing better than they do, and yet they always let you down. Somehow they will always let you down. They show you flashes of what they can be, but they still let you down. And that's the most disheartening thing when you look at this team. Certainly an improvement from the first game versus Mexico, where I thought they were thoroughly outplayed. They may have had 9 minutes in the second half, at the beginning of the second half, but other than that, it was all Mexico. You look at this game, they had 56% possession on a team, Ecuador, that everybody thought was going to win this group. May still win this group, but everybody picked them to win this group. A South American team that's doing very well in qualifiers. That started with negative points, is what, 5th place right now, could be 4th place if not for that. That's doing very well in their quest for a World Cup. And you did well enough where you say, you know what, there's some arguments here in our favor that we could have tied this game and maybe pushed to win it. So yeah, it's an improvement, but in the end, it's what we've seen from this Jamaican squad, time and time again.
We've seen Jamaica twice now. What's your big takeaway on them?
I look at, for example, a guy like Mikel Antonio. I see him as potentially the most dominant striker in the region, potentially. Physically, certainly the most dominant. And I have seen him manhandle center backs in the region. And you would think, well, that's definitely going to translate into consistent productivity. And that's not the case. Not in the manner in which I was expecting. And I think that's what Jamaica is that you're expecting more, but it's not quite there. And I often think, look, and this is maybe thinking too much about what the struggles or where the struggles from Jamaica come from. Is there a connection to the national team? All these players that come from all sorts of different places and that have the background in Jamaica but aren't Jamaican per se, is there a connection? Is there the emotion? And I honestly, once they step out on the field, they're obviously going to try to win games and they're going to try to represent the country as best as they possibly can. But there is something to be said in these games that are so evenly played, that where the difference is so small. That little extra, that little something that pushes you forward, that forces you to give everything that you have and more, even more of yourself. Not because you're playing for yourself, but because you're playing for, in the case, I can only speak for Venezuela, as a vessel of hope for the country, as a vessel of hope for the Venezuelan people. And you know that's on your shoulders, and man, that pushes you forward. I don't know that exists in Jamaica because I don't think that connection is quite there. And I don't believe it's an unfair comment to make. I just think it's the reality of the situation. And so they're talented players, seems like a talented team, but when it comes down to it, I don't know that they're willing to push to the limit in order to do the things that they need to do.
I mean, Leon Bailey didn't even show up to this point.
But Leon Bailey's the one guy here that does have the connection, does have the roots, comes out of the Jamaican League, you know, does feel that, and he doesn't even want to be here. So Ali's right about that connection and it being important for any team, But I think you're right about these problems go deeper, right? They're deep-rooted in the federation, deep-rooted.
Relationships between federation and players, sounds like there's a lot of issues, brewing there for Jamaica. They still have one more game left, at least in Copa America. As we said, they could be eliminated from the Copa America by the time the evening finishes, depending on what happens in that Mexico-Venezuela match. We will be back after Venezuela.
There you are,
Ale. Alejandro,
back in the promo.
Herc and Seb back with you on ESPN Plus tonight with all the coverage after Group B showdown between Venezuela and Mexico.